Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. In this edition, of course, we will be talking about Tottenham's 1-0 win at Kenilworth Road and Tottenham Hotspur are top of the Premier League table. Of course, Arsenal face Manchester City tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen, but Spurs are unbeaten going into the international break. Played 8, won 6, drawn 2. I have 3 very, very special guests to talk about today's game. Of course, Luton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1. Joining us for the very first time, we have got actor Jamie Kenna, who, of course, has joined us all the way from the Cobbles. Of course, he spent the last couple of years on Coronation Street. Jamie, lovely to have you here. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've been busting to get on this and have a good old Spurs chinwag. It's been a few seasons since I've wanted to have a Spurs chinwag, but this season I'm very happy to do so. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Back with us, we've got Barnaby Slater, and I think it's fair to say I probably wouldn't have done YouTube if it wasn't for you, Barnaby. So if people don't like what I do, it's probably your fault. Of course, former presenter of Spurred on TV, and you've just started up your own channel, Barnaby.
Well, that's right, and I've ingeniously called it the Spurred on Podcast because I'm just going to try and scrape back some of the old fans. Yeah, I used to run Spurred on across YouTube and all the social channels, and now I'm starting a daily Spurred on podcast, which you can find on all your usual podcast platforms, as well as on my YouTube, which is along the bottom there, at Barnaby Slater _. So if you want to check out kind of daily updates on all things Tottenham and some interviews with lovely people, hopefully like Chris and Jar and Jamie, then subscribe and follow. Thanks, guys.
Barnaby, I don't know how you've done it. You covered the good times under Pochettino. You then didn't do any of Spurred on during Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Nuno Espirito Santo, Stellini, Ryan Mason, and now you're back for the good times under Postecoglou.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like that might not be coincidence. But yeah, I think, let's be honest, following Spurs is more enjoyable when you actually have someone willing to play front foot attacking football. But I think we'll go into this, I'm sure, but I actually think Ange Postecoglou might end up being the greatest manager we've had since Bill Nick, because he just has it all, in not only on the pitch and how he treats the players, but in terms of dealing with the press, not playing any games off the pitch. I think it's very, very good. Like, it's going to be very, very good.
We will get into it. I'm really hoping, Barnaby, that Ange is the guy to lead us to our next trophy, because, of course, it's been too long. Back also with us is Jar Wobble, of course, guitarist and singer. Jar, how are you? And thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm 65, and now pathetically I wake up thinking of Tottenham, go to sleep thinking of Tottenham. Was very excited about this game. That obviously wasn't the case at times this last few years with Maureen, Conte. We were so lucky to have him, and Nuno. You know, absolutely like a new era. And as Barnaby just said, I don't want to get too excited too quickly, but yeah, this guy's got this gaffer has got something about him, hasn't he? Really got something about him.
Joe, that is exactly where I want to start. I was asked this question earlier today, and I keep being asked this question. Are you getting excited? Are you getting carried away? We're 8 games in. We're unbeaten. We're playing some great football. We're grinding out results like we did today. 10 men. Bissouma sent off. We've got the 3 points here today. We're sitting top of the league. Are you getting carried away by this entertaining football that we're playing?
I'm not getting carried away, because I've just obviously had so many disappointments. I mean, football mainly brings disappointment. It's more disappointing for more people at any given time than not. That's the nature of it. You've only ever got a few winners. So I'm not getting carried away. But, you know, 6 wins, isn't it, and 2 draws? And apparently we had a very easy start. I'm told. You know, Liverpool, Man United. You know, there are, and as we could see today, there's no easy games. That turned out to be a very, very tricky game today. I was actually a bit worried that I felt too many fans were too overconfident this last couple of days. I didn't hear anyone even say Luton could score a goal, which I know they didn't, but they could well have done. It was a really tricky game, but we found out more about the team today, I think, than if we'd won 3 or 4-0, you know. So it's turned out really good. We really showed some grit. We gave up 1 or 2 chances, but on the whole, did very well. We did that thing, what happens with passing teams. I've seen it with Tottenham in the 80s when we had that great team. If you don't score goals with your chances, you start to overcook it, and you start to overthink it, start to overplay. And we saw that. And obviously, the biggest, Bissouma was a little bit guilty of that. And obviously, Bissouma, hopefully he can learn from this. But it's insane when you're on a yellow to start with to do what he did today. You don't get the first yellow. It's like with affairs. Don't go and have the first innocent coffee. If you don't have the first innocent coffee, you won't have years and years of misery and grief and all that caper. Not that I know anything about any of that. Because
I wish I'd have been on this podcast a few years ago.
I don't take the first coffee.
That's the thing with this podcast, Jamie. You don't know what you're going to be talking about next.
Well,
You'd be talking about the football, and then affairs come into it.
Well,
Jamie, are you getting carried away with this and Postecoglou affair?
Do you know, I'm not getting carried away because I think, I think you have to be steeped in reality being a Spurs fan. And I too have been up and down and round and about over the years. But what I'm just loving is I love him. I love his demeanour. Obviously we're starting to have a go, and with the negativity that we've been shrouded in for the last few seasons, watching some dire performances, watching some players who are lost, who don't know what they're doing, with no identity. I became a Spurs fan based on how we played football many, many moons ago, and to go through what we've been through. So one injury, Maddison gets injured, or like the goals dry up a little bit, it becomes a different thing. But at the moment, I'm not getting carried away, but I'm just like every other Spurs fan. I'm just loving it. I'm loving talking about it. I'm looking forward to the games. The atmosphere in the stadium, like, that Liverpool game last week, the singing before the game, the atmosphere before the game, it's electric, and it just doesn't feel like the game is over. And it, back in the day, and I think that Luton game today is another example of, our heads would have dropped with all those chances we missed, but we rode it out. And I think the biggest thing for me, I love how we're attacking, but the biggest thing for me is we are defending superbly. I think the Liverpool game, at the back, we were absolutely. I mean, Salah barely did a thing. Doggy literally put him in his pocket, and that, I think, is what won us the game. So we're talking about the attacking football, but I think defensively it's been magnificent. Van der Ven, what a find he's been. So yeah, I'm just loving it. I'm not getting carried away because and I'm not going to start talking titles and all that. And to be honest, I'll be quite happy tomorrow if we do give up the top spot and City give Arsenal Tonkin. So, but it's just a very enjoyable start to the season. It's nice to wear this with pride and hold my head up and go, yeah, I'm a Spurs fan.
What are you talking though, Jamie? What are you expecting now? This impressive start under Postecoglou, and we know that we can play decent, attractive football. That we know that we can create a lot of chances. We've created more chances than anyone else in the Premier League right now. What do you think Ange can deliver this season for Tottenham, and what would you be happy with?
I think a realistic aspiration is top 6. I think an excellent aspiration and a very achievable one based on what we've done now is top 4. I think it's very open. I think once City put the burners on, I think it's theirs to lose. I think, they're in a different league, and they proved it last season. They sort of were at a bit of a canter, and then boom, they turned it up a notch. So, but I think the next sort of 3, 4, 5 spots are up for grabs. I really do. A little run, and I would absolutely love to have a proper go at the FA Cup. I mean, we are due a Wembley trip. Our name needs to be back on that trophy, and I would love that. I'd actually probably go as far as to say I might get shot down. I'd give up a European spot to have an FA Cup, to win in the FA Cup.
I said the same earlier. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with us. Barnaby, are you getting carried away by Ange Ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said in my intro, and I like I said, I think he could end up being the best manager we've had since Bill Nicholson. I know Keith Birkinshaw fans will be upset with me and Pochettino fans, but I just think he is the right guy at the right time in terms of man management, press management, and that whole thing that he's said and goes through with of be brave on the ball. If you make a mistake, it's on me. It's not on you. That is so refreshing, and that must be amazing for people, particularly like I think Pat Matasar and Pedro Porro today. Did they lose the ball a few times? Yeah, they did. But they know that Postecoglou is not going to dig them out in the press. He's not going to have a go at them. And that is why we're making chance after chance. What I will say about today is I think it was the first true example of how difficult some Ange ball is going to be to watch, because usually when you go down to 10 men, everybody gets behind the ball and, you're feeding off scraps. but he was leaving one or two up front and letting our fullbacks get completely overloaded. And it was stressful at times. But I think I said it in my match review, actually, on Spurred On. I think realistically, he thinks that it's just as likely he's going to score another one as it is that they're going to concede one by having 10 men behind the ball. And I think he's right. I actually think he's right. We made a good few chances. We could easily have scored the second goal. And it's really refreshing. So, yeah, to answer your question, I'm thoroughly on the Ange train.
Well, let's have a look at the match stats. Luton had 33% possession, Tottenham 67%. Luton had 12 shots to Tottenham's 15. Shots on target, Luton 2, Spurs 4. Corners, Luton 5, Spurs 6. And fouls, Luton 16, Spurs 7. And as I mentioned earlier, Tottenham Hotspur are top of the Premier League. And forgive me if I show this graphic a number of times during this stream. Played 8, won 6, drawn 2, got a goal difference of plus 10, and we have 20 points. Jo, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game, because the way that we started the match, we could have been 3-0 up in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and it's always frustrating when this is the one time, funny enough, today sort of missed Kane. It was a bit of a flat track bully against these kind of teams, and I did also wonder, because that's the one great thing, is Kulu cuts inside on his left, puts those lovely balls to the far post, and he's going to do that 2 or 3 times at least in a game. He's going to deliver some good balls. I kept thinking, wouldn't it be better if you had Son there, But hey, that's football. It does happen, doesn't it? You dominate. As I said earlier, all passing teams have games where this happens. And you see it a lot of times with City. Your nightmare is if you go a goal down, and anything can happen, of course, in the Premier League. It's so dynamic, and you get a red card as we did today. The whole thing changes. I thought we started overplaying about a half-hour mark. They started to come into it. They were emboldened. We were getting a little bit frustrated. 1 or 2 players just trying to get on the ball too much and be Roy of the Rovers, which we've had with Harry Kane this last few. A great player, Harry Kane, but it's too many Roy of the Rovers moments, rather than having faith in moving the ball quick, just keeping it simple, playing the easy ball all the time, But second half, we was down to 10, and I thought we dug in and we used the ball well when we could, and Maddison come up with the goods again. It needed a centre half. Nobody said with the goal, by the way, I didn't really listen too much to the pundits. Nobody said how quick he sorted his feet out. Because according to, who was the guy who was our manager for 2.5 seconds before?
No.
Yeah, he was saying he wasn't a very good player at all. He could only run in straight lines and was a bit clumsy, I think, But anyway, he showed today, sorted his feet out well. I thought he was probably our man of the match. Him and Romero were immense because they were exposed on the flanks so much, had to defend their box, did so well. And with Barnaby, at times your instinct is to want to get those midfielders back, doubling up and getting behind the fullbacks. But I guess he seems very calm, Postecoglou, and I guess he's a very bright guy. It's no wonder he's got Greek DNA. The way he was talking about VAR, he's very philosophical. He's a very smart guy, very, very clever, obviously. And he would have just worked out statistically, you're probably better off to keep an attacking force going, especially in the modern game. Rather than give up all, as we've done so often in the past, give up all your attacking hopes. And we ended up so pathetically like a boxer on the rope, just getting pummeled so often at times this last few seasons. The only time that didn't happen was in the latter part of Conte's reign in the first season, when we broke with menace and actually, placing it. People forget that was a good little period. But overall, with Maureen, it was pretty hopeless. And with Nuno, it was pretty hopeless, So, yeah, and we found out a lot. I think I found out more about the character of the team today than even against Liverpool or Sheffield United. You're away from home. You're down to 10 men. You're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're just thinking of solutions all the time, which is that positive mindset that you want in life from people around you if you can. You don't want people, oh, no, there's a leak in the roof. Whoa. We get get someone to fix it, or get up there and get a bucket out, or whatever. Find a solution. You know, there's no point moaning, and they just got on with it. Obviously, Bissouma's going to be out now for a game, and I believe if he gets another yellow, he's out, and he's the only press-resistant guy we've really got there. That's a concern. But I'm not as concerned after the game as I would have been before, because Holberg, every time he comes in, he's a leader. And I think they can find a solution to getting the ball out from the back against Fulham. I'll go and see them. I could have gone today, actually, because I've got a couple of mates. A good mate of mine's a season ticket holder there, him and his pal. So I get tickets to see Fulham at times. And I was at the game in the Caribou earlier this year. He's obviously a canny manager, and would have had a good look at us, and he'll be relishing the challenge. But Ange, he'll be very calm. He obviously analyses them. He's a master at delegation. What I like with him, he doesn't try to take all the credit for how well the defence is playing. He's given a lot of credit. It's Matty Wells, is it, the guy who's doing the defensive coach at Tottenham, who's come in, which is really, it's just everything's great man management. Yesterday, talking about... they ask him about the team, how well it's doing, and he talks only about the players who are not in the team. Skip, Davis, and Holberg, whoever it was. I noticed he didn't talk about Dyer, but maybe that's just me reading more into it. But he talks about these players who are not in the team, obviously motivating them, motivating the people who realise if they have a couple of bad games, they could be out, you know. So today I learned a lot from them. I've got a number of texts from people saying, well, we held on and we were really pretty solid and pretty assured, and we managed the game very well once we got the goal. Incredible that he keeps taking off Son and Maddison. Incredible, which makes you think he's not just focused on that game. He's like 3D chess. He's looking at the future. He's weighing everything up. So I'm very, very solid today. And it's lovely with these international breaks, which we all hate. I don't know anyone who likes these international breaks. Breaks the bloody season up. There's all the bloody rhythm. But isn't it lovely when you go into one, when you've had a victory, top of the league? I think tomorrow will be 1-1. I think that'll be a draw, because I don't think City, they're missing De Bruyne. I don't think they've got quite in to get across the line tomorrow. And probably the same with Arsenal. I see a 1-1 or a 0-0 even tomorrow. I think it'll be a cagey affair. Remind me that when it ends up 5-3 to City. But I just got that feeling that things are going our way at the moment. Anyway, I'm talking too much, but I'm very excited.
I can tell. It's great to hear. Jamie, let's come to you. I think a lot of people expected a bit of a walkover today against Luton. I felt that Luton played extremely well today and gave Tottenham a real game. Of course, we did have those chances in the first 10 minutes, but it wasn't the easiest game. That's not going to be an easy place to go to, Kenilworth Road, for a lot of Premier League teams. What did you make of Luton? Because without sounding disrespectful, I think that if they were pretty handy in the final third, they might have got a few goals today.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that if they just lack quality. They just lack quality. I think that ground is going to be a difficult place to go, because the fans are right on top of you. They make a lot of noise about the atmosphere. Credit to them. They are really enjoying themselves. And I think that's all you can do when you're a team like Luton. You come up and just enjoy your moment in the sun. I don't think they will survive, because I just don't think they've got enough quality. And I think that proved today, because they really, once we went down to 10 men, because I think they were shell-shocked in the first 10, 15 minutes. I think they were a bit awestruck by, it's the first top 6 team that's been there. I think they were a little bit kind of, oh my God, it's Tottenham, and we should have been 3 or 4 goals up. I think once they settled in, and once they started winning a few tackles better, because I thought they were kicking us all over the shop at first, I think they really settled in. And then obviously us going down to 10 men, they sort of capitalised on it. But I just don't think they had that quality in the final third, and that's the difference. I think they huff and puff, and they'll definitely give you a game, and I think they will pick up results. But it was a tough, that's a harder game, really. Liverpool at home, for example, Man United at home. We know they're tough games. We know when you're going away to Arsenal, about that. When you're going to Kenilworth Road and you're playing in what is effectively a large National League stadium, like that's hard. That's hard, because it's a no-win, isn't it? Like, you go and Tonkum, everyone goes, oh well, it's only Luton, and then you scrape a little 1-0 win. Everyone's like, well, you only just got through it. But, I'd agree with the guys that they're the results we need. They're the results in the last few years that we wouldn't have done. We'd have sulked. We'd have started sulking. The atmosphere would have changed. The fans might have gone a bit quiet. We'd have lacked a little bit of leadership, bit of direction, going down to 10 men. We would have lost those games. I remember in the past we've done it to Stoke on a Tuesday night, things like that. You go away and your heads go down, your tails drop. So I think credit to us for keep going. Definite credit to Ange, because what I love is he seems to be having an impact half time. Half times are really crucial with him. You can tell he's making a difference. You can tell the way he carries himself. He's going to go in, and he's not just going to, like Mourinho in that documentary, it was all about him, shouting and screaming, huffing and puffing, and making it about him and his ego. Ange, wants to go in and he tinkers and he makes an impact. I think the players are playing for him. I think they respect him. They like him. He's giving people chances. And I think that showed for me after the Fulham game, the Carabao Cup game. That was when that was like, this is our guy. Because the way he just took that on the chin, the way he fronted that, making 9 changes and going, do you know what? I've got to play these. I've got a load of players and I need to give them a game. And I don't, and I need to find out what they're like. And we only lost on penalties. And I think that's what I've loved about him. So a game like today, I think he deserves a lot of credit. And that's a tougher game than people will give us credit for. But fair play to Luton. If there's any Luton fans, watching, I think it's going to be a tough place and they will pick up some results. And their fans were superb, I thought.
I think it's fair to say that we've had hurdles that we've had to jump over in most games this season so far.
Yeah.
I know Jar said that he doesn't really take the credit, but he should be taking the credit, shouldn't he? Because, are you surprised as well how good things are after just 8 games? Because when you think back about the transfer window and you think that the likes of Harry Kane have left the football club as well, this is a major rebuild, 8 games in, unbeaten, all these hurdles that we've had to jump over. Are you surprised by how quick it's all happened?
I mean, yes and no. I had a feeling about him, and he's obviously a player's manager. And what he's done is he's come in, and he's, you think of the likes of Bissouma and Sarr, they're already there. So all he's done is he's brought performances out of players that we already had that were being squashed. So a good man manager will come in and go, right, okay, who have we got? And that's what he's done. He's put faith in. Obviously, he's brought Maddison in and a couple of others, but he's put faith in, he's restored faith in what was already there in players that are lost, except Dyer. But, that's what he's... So I guess, am I surprised? Or I had an inkling. I did have an inkling. I thought he was a good appointment. But then the only thing that scared me was I did have the similar inkling about Nuno. When we got Nuno, because I'd seen what he'd done at Wolves.
You didn't.
Well, a little bit, because I was like, he did a half decent job at Wolves, and I thought maybe he can get Doherty to actually perform. But yeah, obviously I was massively. So I was a bit guarded. Like, he's come from Japan and Celtic, but he's got that aura about him. He's got Spurs manager written all over him for me. He's just so cool and calm, and I think Poch in his pomp was very similar. Was very player orientated. Was very, like unearthed players and gave them responsibility and put faith in them. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah. I suppose I am a bit surprised, but not as surprised as maybe you think I should be. I don't even know if I've answered the question. I'm just rambling.
Barnaby, of course, you were on Spurred On when we were doing well under Pochettino, and when he came in, how would you describe Ange Postecoglou's appointment against Pochettino's appointment and the way that they transformed the clubs? Because Pochettino, of course, transformed Tottenham, but it wasn't this quick.
No, he actually took about 6 months, didn't he, where he gave a chance to the kind of older guard, your Soldado, Adebayor, Yunus Kabul. I think even Yunus Kabul may have got the captaincy, and then after about 6 months, he bombed them out, and there were lots of stories about how kind of the younger up-and-coming players led by Kane with Andros Townsend and some of those players, Ryan Mason, were being louder in the dressing room. And so he kind of turned it around that time. And, of course, there was the famous Harry Kane free kick deflected off the wall that kind of seemed to turn things around, and then the 5-3 against Chelsea on New Year's Day. So, no, it didn't happen in the same way. For me, obviously the main difference is when Postecoglou was appointed, I think there was a a corner of the Spurs fan base who were disappointed. I think they were very much like, we want a big name, we want Nagelsmann, we want, so-and-so. And what has this guy done? He's not even done it in a big league. Anybody can do it at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers won a treble at Celtic, etc., etc. But what I think you have to, and I know this is controversial for me to say, but where you have to give props to Daniel Levy, I think, is that he clearly had an option to bring Pochettino back. He clearly met with Postecoglou, and he saw something there that he believed in terms of Postecoglou being, I think, what we all see now, which is basically just a normal, believable, honest bloke. And I dare say Postecoglou said to Levy during their interview process, I'm going to play attacking football and I'm going to take responsibility for it. And if I get sacked, it'll be because we've played attacking football. And if you look back at all of the stuff I've done everywhere, I've done that everywhere. So this isn't me just telling you this to pay lip service to what you feel you need after having 3 defensive managers. This is who I am and how I believe in football. And you can see the success I've had. The reason I haven't had success in the Premier League with it is because I've never been given the opportunity. And that's because he's Australian and no other reason. So I think you do have to give Levy a bit of props in the same way you have to give Levy some props for appointing Pochettino. Now, obviously, the counter argument is, were there other first choices? Potentially there were. Definitely, I think he wanted Van Gaal back when he had appointed Pochettino. And there was certainly a lot of talk about him trying to appoint Arne Slot back in the summer. So, sometimes you get lucky, you make your own luck. In terms of Postecoglou and why I think it's happened so quickly, I think there's another angle as well, which is those players must have just been so desperate to enjoy themselves again and to be allowed to play some football, to do what they're elite at. They've got to the elite level because this stuff comes second nature to them. And then to have a manager for 18 months who was literally telling them to go against their own beliefs. Bissouma, everybody said it, but it's true. The perfect example. I know, he was silly today, but he's absolutely key for us because his talent as an elite footballer is to take the ball on the half turn while he's got someone at his back in the most dangerous of areas and send them the wrong way and then make 40 yards up the pitch or give it to Maddison and make chances through it. And Conte hated him for that. He didn't want him to do that. I bet he saw him in the first training session and shouted at him because that's what he did. And that's where the strategy of Tottenham wasn't right. We were buying players for a manager who didn't want those players. And the manager didn't want to be there. He was, everyone says it, it's true. He was doing us a favour. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I thought at the start Conte was a great appointment. I even thought at the start that Mourinho might be the right appointment to finally get us over the line.
I agree.
But we've had that 4 or 5 years of what Levy said in the fan forum. It's true. He got carried away. I got carried away. We need a win manager now, a win now manager, because Pochettino hadn't quite got us there, having had a few opportunities in finals and semi-finals. And it didn't work, and we've got to go back to what we believe in. And Postecoglou is bang on the nose of what Tottenham is all about. And that's what's exciting, is that we're doing it. I'll give you a perfect example. I've been with my girlfriend for 4 years. I'm so excited at the moment. She's like this, don't talk to me about Tottenham. I've seen it every year. And I'm going, it's different now. It's different now. And she doesn't believe me. She's Brazilian. She doesn't believe me. She's like, listen, in Brazil, we play proper football. Spurs are going to let you down. You're in a toxic relationship with them. Get over it. And I'm like, I promise you, it's different now. It's different now. And I'm desperate for something to happen just so I can prove to her and these other people that it is different.
Sounds like you need to go for a coffee with someone else.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But if that's your way of asking, Jamie, then maybe we can talk after the spring.
Joe, let's come to you. That was going to be my exact next point. What is different? What is going to be different next? Because Barnaby's absolutely right. We've had good times under Pochettino. We were top of the Premier League table under Jose Mourinho, beat Manchester United 6-1. We had some good times under Antonio Conte when he first started. Even Nuno won his first 3 Premier League games 1-0.
Manager of the month, didn't he, Nuno?
Exactly. So we've had some good times. We've seen good starts before. What's going to be different this time, in your opinion?
Well, this guy, Aussies have got something about them, haven't they? These Southern Hemisphere dudes are tough. Realise they're going to be seen as less than their European and South American counterparts. So, you've got to be twice as good. It's a bit like, the argument for black people cracking on in whatever possessions. They've got to be twice as good. Or, the argument of working class people getting, you've got to be twice as good in order to you end up having to be so good just to kind of progress, But I've got to kind of refer back to what Barnaby just said. I mean, I've really had pops at Levy, and you know, I think he lucked out with Pochettino and then didn't support Pochettino in difficult circumstances. We got a new stadium, but didn't support him with a rebuild. And then gets Maureen in and sacking Maureen. I know we've all been over this, but it's first of all just to say the debit side of things with Levy. Sacks Maureen 5 days before a final, which is crazy. Obviously, I, like Barnaby, when we got Maureen, I did think, well, we'd probably win something now. Obviously, that really didn't happen. I was at the Nuno games. I was there with Crystal Palace, in Crystal Palace hospitality with them. So I had to stay there after the game and suffer it all and be big in defeat that day. That was the first time, I think that was the first defeat that season. And we were taken apart by Gallagher in the midfield. He was on loan from Chelsea. But, okay, that's all the faults with Levy. But to be fair, with Levy, stuff's been gone in the background, probably with Paratici. So one of the things that's very different with this era with Ange compared to Pochettino, he's got the best players, the right kind of players in place. I had some sympathy for Levy last year because Conte, so intransient, obviously was telling Bissouma, you stand in that position, you get the ball, you pass it wide, not allowing him to play. Because it's a very fixed Italian mentality. And he probably would argue, he'd hate the side of Bissouma's game that sees him pick up all these yellows. Feels especially today, would feel the Italian way would be to be a lot craftier. If you're going to do someone, do them with the blind side of the ref, and all that stuff. But to be fair with Levy, foundations have been being laid. And we all knew Bissouma was a good player because we'd seen him with Brighton. You knew Sarr just looked the part when you looked at the YouTube videos of him, and then you had a few glimpses of him. Just thought, to me, looks like a Patrick Vieira kind of guy. He's really dominant. Vieira was a kind of number 8 or number 6, and he's kind of got that in him. So there were some good players. The recent recruitment, Udogie, Porro, great signings. Emerson, not the worst signing in the world. The only thing we were lacking was a number 10. And hey, Levy's gone out and sold the club to Maddison, and Maddison really wants to wear the shirt, So I think that's the beginning of it's different. It's a lot more solid. You're giving this guy players he can work with. Players who, I think that one of the briefs was, with somebody like Udogie or Porro, who both have played as wing backs as opposed to full backs, especially inverted, they would have factored in, are they tactically flexible? And they are. They're tactically flexible. So you're working with players who can handle playing triangles all over the park. The right, technically proper players who play with their head up, So I think that you got that about it. And he's got that classic steely thing in him, because it comes to cricket or whatever. If you're facing an Aussie, they're going to be well prepared. And they really are very competitive. It must be in the genes when you're sent all the way down there as a convict. You have to get on the ship in the Thames and you're sentenced for stealing a sheep or something. And it breeds them tough down there. I mean, my old man never had a bad word to say. He's a taciturn bloke, my old man. El Alamein, all that caper. Never had a bad word to say about the Aussies or the Germans for that matter. Didn't like the Yanks. But the Australians all used to say, in the desert, they're really tough. They just never give up, And of course, they've got a smartness about them as well, And what I love about this guy, he doesn't, like I said the last time on the programme, I think, Chris, he doesn't come in having to hold hands with all these little mates, with all this pompous thing. They have to bring in their own fitness coach and their own defensive coach, and they have to bring in their own interior designer even for all this rubbish. He just rocks up, confidently can do the job, and that's wonderful. It's like if you're going to produce a record for somebody, you have a bit, I know what this record should sound like. I don't need, the engineer I've always used because, we've just got, because basically that tells me, they won't challenge you, probably. So I like the way he just carries himself. He's got the steeliness about him, which, as Barnaby said, is very much like Bill Nick. And he's also not your mate. Whereas Poch, who, lovely bloke, but a little bit, maybe a bit too matey in the way Tuchel are with the modern players, and you can't do it. So all this having his lunch in his office will work great. Because if I'm a young player, you don't want the boss about. My band, when I turn up, and I like to joke with everyone, but I'm old and I'm the governor, make no mistake. But when I turn up, my band all like now, all my missus says it's funny when you come up, because she works for me. So she said, when you show up, everyone's on their toes a bit. Well, fuck it, sorry, they're good. So they should be, because we're not playing about. We've got to entertain, people that evening or whatever. We're not there to muck about. It's not a jolly boys outing. We're not there to see how fast we can play and impress each other. We're there to give the people a show, And he's very, very down to earth like that, this guy. So he's a guy, you could bump into him on a tube train, he wouldn't be an arsehole. Very, I think he's a regular fella. And there's a steeliness about him, a smartness about him. You can trust him. He's at a good age. He's not too old. He's not getting into his 60s and his 70s. And yet he's not. This is it now. This is really the time he comes in. And look at the assurance he's got, like a great chef. He's totally assured. Today they said when there was it wasn't really much. In fact, it was in a box. Porro went down. Old, he said, I think he was shithousing a bit probably, and good luck to him. So would I. I like shithousing. It's a good thing to do. But it wasn't really a terrible foul. But the bench were all up in arms because they're nervous. It's getting near the end of the game. And he just turned around and shooed them all down. Like, calm down. So he's one of the calmest managers I've never seen. The way he handled the VAR nonsense with Liverpool, which I thought was ridiculous, by the way. I know you would have covered that already. I thought it was very disingenuous of Klopp to come out with what he did about, I think there should be a replay, because that really is very big. Imagine if you had a replay, the trouble you could have, So it really is like, not a great thing for him to have said it, And it's like they're not the only club to have ever suffered serious errors, basically, So I thought that was a bit done. And Klopp's a guy I like, but there's a side to him, is what I'm trying to say, I suppose. Where there's a side to, as there was with a lot of these managers, they manage everything. Ange is obviously clever and crafty, but so relaxed with himself, it doesn't really make problems with anybody. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't really make problems, or very diplomatic, doesn't waste any energy fighting fights he doesn't need to fight. He was so sensible what he said when everyone is clamoring this week for ex-players to be in the VAR truck and all that stuff. And he just said, well, we don't know half the rules. And it's so true. There's so many little there's an arcane rule side to football. You think this really is still a Victorian sport in us. It's quite weird when you get into the minutiae of the rules, which even ex-players don't know, So, and I'm not going to, trying to slag Liverpool off or Klopp off. I would have been disappointed. But I'm making a comparison. Klopp, there's a side there, I think, with him, it's very competitive. And, those guys like Maureen would always be thinking tactically of their own position, always, putting pressure on the next ref in a way, putting pressure to get the result. Whereas this guy, breath of fresh air, that he doesn't seem to do that. To actually, I've never heard a professional manager these last few years be so emphatic with the referees. I thought that was really very rare and actually very crafty, maybe in a way, because the best thing you can get is just be seen as a very neutral kind of way. Whereas rather than some of those refs may be thinking, if I'm a ref, I'm going out to manage a game with Liverpool for the next few weeks. I'm going to be really nervous. Oh, for God's sake, we mustn't get this wrong, or we're going to really be criticised terribly. But anyway, I'm happy. You have to be. Come on, as he said, he's not there to smash people's dreams, Ange. When he was asked about, should you manage expectations, you can't help but feel very solid about this and be positive and optimistic without going crazy. So the question you asked me, what's the difference now? Well, it's a lot more solid ground to start with. The players are better, and to give Levy some praise, he knows it's about having a philosophy, and they use the word alignment, don't they, now, that everything's in alignment. Even you sense that the academy, which obviously had, you know, won a couple of titles last year, but they also got relegated as well, one of the age groups, which seemed a bit strange.
It was the under 21s. It was the under 21s that got relegated, and then they restructured the league, and they've won 8 out of 8 so far, playing the same system that Postecoglou plays. So it's incredible, really.
It's coming into alignment. Yeah.
Jamie, let's come to you. Let's talk a little bit about the summer signings, because as Jo mentioned there and touched on, every appointment that has been made under Postecoglou, every new player that has come in has made a real impact. And even players like Eric Dyer, where I think it's fair to say, you know, many mistakes from Eric Dyer in recent years. We were all frustrated. We were all talking about, you know, certain players going out the door, Davinson Sanchez, etc. A lot of them have gone out. Eric Dyer, he hasn't had a look in this season. It's amazing what transformation that he's actually done at the football club so far.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what he's done, what I've really liked is there hasn't been any panic, and I think that's real key. And obviously, they knew they were getting the Kane money. They knew there was a lot of money coming in, so there could have been a big clamour and a panic, as we did with the Gareth Bale money years ago, and we just literally, you know, just chucked it away. The signings have been, well, firstly, I think I feel like we've had more signings because I think the likes of Bissouma, as I said before, to reiterate, the trust and responsibility is given those players who were already there. They feel like new signings. It feels like we've got. I've got to say, I wasn't a massive Pedro Porro fan when he first came in. I thought he looked fine going forward. I had question marks about his defensive abilities. He's turned him around. Like I'm eating my words, because I was like, I didn't really see it. I thought it was a waste of money. I thought it was a panic buy from Conte. I was like, you know, we were just trying to get players through the door. So it feels, first of all, like some of the signings we've already had feel like they've been brand new signings because of what he's done. And is just a Spurs player. I mean, he's just got Tottenham written all over him. You wonder why he's taken this long, because he's just, the way he plays the game, the way he wants to play the game, the fans, his relationship with the fans, like, you know, he's exactly what we've needed. It's a real shame. I don't know if you remember a player. There was a player called Harry Kane that used to play for us. I'm not sure what's happened to him now, but
no one's mentioning him, though, are they? No one mentioned him.
Well, I think it was Barnaby said earlier. I think today was the day where we did miss him. I mean, that we'd be 3-4 goals up in that situation. And my only sort of slight worry, I'm still hoping and praying to the Spurs gods that Richarlison finds something and kicks on and takes his opportunity, because I like him. I think he wants it to happen. He needs to, you know, he looks a bit sulky. He's starting to look a bit sulky again today. I think he shows glimpses and he's got a real opportunity. And I do really want him to take it. But I think that's one of my concerns, I think, is where our goals, we look a little bit, at certain times we're trying to overplay a little bit too much in and around the box. We're a little bit trigger shy. I thought against Liverpool, you know, when they went down to 9 men, we didn't quite know how to put them under pressure and to really pull the trigger. So that's one of the only little negatives. But in terms of the signings, I think it's been brilliant. Udogie, I think, is superb. I know it's Udogie, but I quite like Udogie. I think he's like, I mean, again, you know, he's someone that's been there and thereabouts, and he's just, you know, I have to say as well, I went to the Shakhtar game and Vicario looked like a nervous wreck. And I said to my mate, I was like, I don't know. He just lacked, I don't know if you remember, but the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, he looked really shaky, really nervous. He pulled out a couple of big saves in that game, but I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure. But again, I'm eating my words. He is properly taking his opportunity, and that just hit as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I mean, I think it comes down again to the manager putting confidence. I think as a it seems quite simple, but it's what Poch did, and it's what Andrew's doing. You're putting responsibility. You're giving players responsibility. You're giving them the trust. Going, listen, you're my guy. Go and play, and don't worry about it. And that's all it is. I run my son's under 19, and that's what I try and do with them. you want to shout and scream, and I do. Don't get me wrong, and I want them to do this. But the main thing I've got to do is just go and play, and keep a freedom, keep a sense of freedom, and know that the sword of Damocles isn't hanging over you if you make a mistake, which is what we had with previous managers. And so, yeah, I think the signings are turning out to be great. I mean, we'll see where we're at. You know, one injury, I think, will really test us if Maddison or someone like that gets injured. I still think Sonny needs to go up a couple of gears. I think he's scored a few goals, but I think he's got more that he needs to give a little bit. The Liverpool game, I think he was a little bit off it, and then he popped up with a goal. So, yeah, it's a great start. We'll see what happens. But so far, so good for the signings, for sure.
Barnaby, let's come to you. Let's talk about the lineup today. Of course, it was an unchanged team that beat Liverpool last weekend. Vicario in goal, Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Sarr, Bissouma, Kulusevski, Maddison, Richarlison and Heung-min Son. Subs today, Skip, Højbjerg, Brian Hill was back for Tottenham, Emerson Royale, Eric Dyer was back for Tottenham. Giovanni Lo Celso was back for Tottenham. Forster, Davis and Viles. The starting 11 had to be, didn't it?
Yeah, I did a match preview on the Spurs On podcast this week, and I said I expect it to be that. I didn't see anything else changing it. I predicted that Hill would make his kind of first appearance on the bench. And did you say Lo Celso was on the bench as well? Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
And I just think we don't have many more options in terms of first team at the moment. Now that Brennan Johnson's injured, I thought he looked bright on his debut at the Emirates, and he will give us another option. I think Jamie's right. I don't think Son's at 100%, but I do think he's carrying a bit of an injury, and that's kind of what makes it bizarre that he's going off to South Korea to play a couple of meaningless friendlies, but he is the face of...
I felt that he looked absolutely exhausted today. That's my view.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is tired, but I also understand he is the face of South Korean football. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if a couple of years ago, when he did his national service, but it was only like 3 months rather than the usual 2 years, there was some kind of, verbal agreement that he would be going to all of the friendlies unless completely injured, because otherwise it makes no sense that he's going away at all. But yeah, I think him and Maddison are being taken off at 75 minutes, 70 minutes each game because they are not 100%, but we need them. We need them in that spine, especially Maddison at the moment. I mentioned it earlier. It will be interesting to see how we do without Bissouma in the next game. I think it does change us. We were going so much more direct second half. I know we were down to 10 men, but I think also the opposition realised that they didn't have to, they didn't have someone in that position, central defensive midfield, who was going to break past them. So Fulham, under Marco Silva in the next game, he'll do a job on that. And you've got to assume it'll be Højbjerg taking that place. I don't think Bentancur will be anywhere close by then. So we will be a little less, three-dimensional at that point. That'll be difficult. But, you mentioned new signings earlier. I think they've all done really, really well, I have to say. Vicario, I'm a goalkeeper. I was a goalkeeper in my time. Vicario, I heard someone on a podcast this week, one of the general football podcasts, say, I'm an Arsenal fan and I never rated Lloris. Yes, he would make the odd amazing save, but he'd throw one in at the same time. And now that Spurs have got a competent goalkeeper who just seems to play like 7 or 8 out of 10 every game, that worries me as an Arsenal fan. And I agree. He's good in the air. He's a good decision maker. He's making some important saves and obviously very good with his feet, which is vital for Ange's side. So I think that's been a great signing. Van der Ven, obviously. I mean, this is something I said earlier in my podcast this week as well. For the first time in a long time, it just strikes me that I think the scouting team and the data analysts are bringing players to Postecoglou, and he's just going, well, if they're what I need in the right position with the right attributes, then yes. And if not, no. And Van der Ven's a perfect example. Romero is a great defender, but he needs someone with blistering pace alongside him because he will get caught further up the pitch. And Van der Ven's turn of pace is vital. And they are looking, I know somebody mentioned it earlier, but they are looking like an unbelievable centre-back partnership. They really remind me of like Vidic and Ferdinand, but where both of them have got half of Vidic and half of Ferdinand in them. They've got the dog, but they've also got like the kind of finesse on the ball as well. Van der Ven looks a bit, he looks a bit uncomfortable on the ball, but he's actually not. It's just like he's got a weird gait the way he runs, I think. But no, very, very impressed with the signings. And Destiny Udogie, wow. I mean, yeah, I think Jamie was saying he didn't think much of Pedro Porro when he first came in. I think we were all kind of led to believe that these players were bought for Conte as wing backs. And the reason why I think they're doing so well is not only because of the man management of Ange, but also clearly they're being coached incredibly well. And they're being allowed, as I mentioned earlier, they're being allowed to play the way that made them so talented and made them get to the elite level in the first place. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. I just want to mention one thing because it hasn't come up yet, I don't think. The dry pitch, which was mentioned quite a lot on commentary by Jermaine Genius, I thought it was a pretty smart tactic by Luton. I think they obviously didn't water the pitch, and Spurs always play on lovely watered pitches. And you could tell a lot of those chances in the first 5-10 minutes we got. Richarlison, I think, had 2 or 3. Porro had 1. The ball was always slightly caught under their feet. And yeah, Richarlison, one of them was a good save, but it just wasn't flowing the way it does on most Premier League pitches. And that was pretty smart of Luton. And it was a bit of a throwback to the 80s and like Cambridge United leaving the grass long in the corners of their pitches. I think under John Beck it was. And it's actually quite nice. I mean, I can say it now that we've won. It's nice to see different clubs doing different things. And it's nice to see a ground like that. And it's especially nice because we went there and turned them over.
Yeah.
I hope you saw the video that I Barnaby of the away end of going in up those stairs and seeing the washing and the
yeah.
You going through people's back gardens, yeah.
Not to diminish your genius, Chris, but every single week I've seen that video from the away fan, or every other week from the away fans. But yeah, it's unique and long may it continue, because you remember that there was that period in the 90s where basically they were just identical stadiums being built, Middlesbrough and Derby, and you don't need that. What makes this different, the Premier League different, is that the culture is there and the tradition and the history is there, and we need to stick to that where we can.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning on the signings. I think Romero, the corner that he's turned, I think it was definitely worth a nod. I've always loved him. I was a centre half, and I love a big tackling, strong, tough centre half. But he was like kamikaze last season. It was nuts. And the discipline that he's now showing, whether that's Ange, whether that's him, whether he's sort of settled into the Premier League a bit more, but he deserves a mention for that because he's stepped up.
Do you think it is because he is now vice captain, Jamie? Do you think that Ange was getting that little bit more out of him? Because even after today's game, he said the defensive display today was a big part of that was Romero. He is an outstanding defender, someone you want in your team, ridiculous bravery. And then he was asked a question in the press conference a short while ago about Messi, saying about him being the best defender in the world. And Postecoglou replied, he's a good judge. But I think, ever since, I think that's a masterclass from Postecoglou to give Heung-min Son the captaincy and then say to Maddison and Romero, you're vice captains. And it's like you've got real leaders. You've got a number of leaders on the pitch.
I think you're absolutely right. I think giving him that responsibility, you've got to lead by example. And I think he was another one. As soon as he came in, I loved him. As soon as he put the Spurs shirt on him, I loved him. I love his aggression. I love his front foot defending. I think, he's got that brilliant, dramatic recovery. He takes the ball, the man, puts everything into Rose Ed, proper old school. But he can also play. He's also very comfortable with the ball at his feet. And I just think he was one of those players that got frustrated and lost last season. And it came out with, some absolutely horrendous rush of blood to the head moments. So, yeah, I think it's a masterstroke giving someone like that, the vice captain's armband, and giving two very different players as well, I think is a really clever thing, not just putting it on one shoulder. So essentially you've got three players, three very different players who we're going, right, we're getting our Tottenham back and it's down to you guys to lead us. So yeah, I think that has got a lot to do with it.
Can I just say quickly, I really get the sense from Romero that he's trying to, he gets the feeling that this project is similar to that project he had with Argentina to win the World Cup. And he's like, can we get together this camaraderie and this teamwork and all that celebrating when they're making tackles and celebrating after games in front of the crowd. It's just those little 1% here and 1% there. And I really feel like he believes in it. And I think and I hope not to be proven wrong, I don't think there's any chance of him coming back from international duty half injured these days like he was. I think last season he didn't really care. Basically, he was like, I don't like Conte. I'm not enjoying this. I'm going to get injured, pretend to be injured, and then be not injured just before the international break, go to my Argentina project. And I think now he's won the World Cup and he's like, now I want to win this here. I'm feeling it. I'm believing it. And with Kane gone, he's now up there with the biggest men in the changing room. And obviously, yeah, I agree. The captaincy thing, just another example of Postecoglou just being like a normal, smart bloke, sees it as I would think normal, common sense, smart blokes would, and making smart decisions.
He doesn't have to play alongside Sanchez either. That probably
Do you mean Sanchez, man of the match in the Champions League against Manchester United in the week?
Forget that. Forget that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, should say Man United currently 1-0 down to Brentford at home.
Yeah, they are. Jensen scored. But Sanchez played very, very well, but he did slip over it for that goal.
I saw that. That was very Sanchez.
Which, incredibly, he looked so graceful through the game and then ends up just falling in such a weird way straight on his boat race again. Yeah.
Do you know what, though, Barnaby? I absolutely love that, where you talk about, some of the players celebrating, like Vicario celebrating a save and Pedro Porro celebrating winning a corner and little things like that. And the players, the way that they look at one another, the way that they smile at one another, this togetherness is just something I've never seen as a Tottenham fan. I know we had great times under Pochettino, but I've never seen moments like that. I know we had, good times with Harry Kane, Dele Alli and Eriksen and co, but it was never like that. John, let's come to you because Jamie and Barnaby have both touched on it already. And I remember talking to you, I think it was after the Lion City Sailors game in Singapore. And I asked you the question, if Spurs sold Harry Kane, would you be happy with Richarlison being our number 9? You answered yes. How do you feel Richarlison has got on so far this season? Of course, he's now playing out on the left. Heung-min Son's playing through the middle. Is that his best position? What is his best position?
Well, he's not a Postiga, let's be fair. He's not Postiga. He's not like Postman. He's not Harry Kane, but he's his own player. He was a thorn in everybody's side when he was at Everton. I didn't think a couple of my mates were saying to me after the Liverpool game he was useless. I thought we had a 7 out of 10 game myself in that. He's quite good coming off the left. Today, I felt for him with that first chance. It was one of those ones, it comes at pace that high. Do you head it? Or, obviously an elite striker on top of their game would make it look easy. They just either died. They would have made their mind up that nanosecond earlier, done one or the other.
Harry Kane has that.
Yeah, that's right. He would. That's exactly right. Kane, and that's the difference. But he's. I really wanted Kane to go because, as you probably know from that episode, it upset one or two people. I think me saying that, but I really wanted him to go because it's like a big drama, and you don't need it around the club. And there's no criticism of Kane at all. So you can't have Roy the Rovers. You stopped Kane, you stopped Tottenham for starters. It's better for Postecoglou to be able to have a clean canvas to paint on, really. And how well we handled that, playing him in that Shakhtar game, and ready to go whatever way it went. But the last knockings, he hasn't got him, and he just gets on with it. So I think Richarlison will come in. I don't really think we've played to Richarlison's strength yet. If he's going to play number 9, you need to get round the back and get the ball, get crosses in. That's where he'll get most of his goals. And it'll be a pain for defenders. He'll keep them busy. So I still think he can do it. Obviously, you've got to be optimistic about that. But as soon as we bought the young boy from Blackburn, the defender, and this Veliz, the Argentinian guy that came on again today, and I just had a feat, which I think I might have said to you at the time, I think he's buying them, or I certainly was saying to people, he'll be looking to play them. They'll be part of the squad. They won't be loaned out or just sitting with the under-21s. If they're training well, they'll get a game. And who knows? He could come on and be a revelation. He's 20, but he's not 18. He's 20, and he must have something about him better than possibly than players like Dane Scarlett and Parrott for him to be in this position where he's being brought on to play. Because surely, but maybe it was already scheduled for those other guys to go out on loan. But he'll be. I think he fancies him to do a job. Richarlison will find out. I mean, he's not done terrible, has he? You know, his record's probably comparable with a lot of number nines. You know, he's got a couple, 2 or 3 goals and 2 or 3 assists. You know, so it's not like he's not contributing, but I still think he can do a job. Come January, there might be a couple of big decisions to be made. You know, because it's possible a guy like that, somebody like Real Madrid, I would have thought. You know, a lot of those big Spanish clubs, in Italian, the few that can still afford halfway decent wages, would see him as a very viable player for their leagues, Richarlison. So something could happen, but who knows? But I would still think he can do a job.
You would rather him in the number 9 then, Joel, would you, rather than out on the left?
Well, I thought playing him out on the left against Liverpool made sense. Today starting in there kind of made sense, but then you start to kind of feel, you know, today was a game where it might have favoured, because Son didn't really have a sniff. I would have personally looked to have changed it 20 minutes, 25 minutes in, put Son out left and put Richarlison through the middle. You know, just rotated him a bit, because I think if you put him there, if you're going to dominate possession and get balls in the box, he's your man. There's going to be times when you're playing against, like Sheffield United, he got the header from the corner. You know, it could easily have just been a header from a cross. So in those kind of games, you do need a bit of the battering ram. You know, you need to play the percentage game a little bit. You know, and by the way, with that last against Liverpool, where we had the other last minute goal, and everyone, I had a few pundits and people saying, "Oh, Tottenham didn't." I had Gary Neville. They did what they should have done. Right, what they should have done was this and that, but they didn't. But it doesn't matter. We found a way, and all you can do is just get dangerous crosses in. If you've got dug in, it's not easy against 9 men. It would have been like, you know, you're attacking Iwo Jima. Oh, there's no problem. There's only about 200 Japanese geezers all dug in up there, so just go and take the hill. Well, they're really dug in and they're determined. So against well-organised defences, dug in and playing in a very determined way, it's difficult. And sometimes someone like Richarlison can be there. To me, he's got something of a Benzema about him as a number 9. The way, the nature of some of the headers he gets and stuff. So yeah, he can definitely do a job. You just got to give him the right service. We're at our best when we're getting behind teams, you know, and it's not easy to get behind teams. But look at all the goals today. Pullback again against Burnley. There was a pullback, wasn't there? Against Arsenal, it's a pullback. You know, they're pullbacks a lot of it. You know, the goals. So you need to get behind teams, and against well-marshalled defences, and we will face those in the coming months. I don't see why he can't be the number 9, and you just have to get behind and get the quality of balls in. Because can you think of another number 9 who's going to be much better than him in the air, or much better than him with little one-touch finishes and stuff when he's on it, as he did with Everton? I can't. So it's very much about the quality of the service that you give him as a number 9. When you're away from home, like in the Burnley away game earlier this year, you're much better off to have Son, you know, because Son's movement, I remember that when Kane wasn't there, Son comes into his own. All this nonsense, Maureen was saying he scored, because he always got to say something, you know, try and be so clever. He scores like a striker because he's not a striker. Well, actually, he's a striker all day long. He's more like Mick Shannon used to be, you know, for Southampton. Great movement across the line. So do you remember in the Champions League running when Kane was injured? Son was a very effective player because his movement's superb. When you give him that whole front area to run, he's more of a striker than a winger for me. Having said that, there's games like today where I would personally think he'd do better out on the left, cutting in. Because they're not, with all due respect to Luton, they're not the best team in the league. And they're the kind of player, he could come in, he could come in on his right, or at least he can get down to the byline and put a hard cross in, you know. But today he didn't really have that physical presence there, you know, to do much. But as against Liverpool, we found a way. And that's what we all know, that's what winning teams do. And we know the margins are very narrow. It's like the Argentinian team. Argentinians find a way. They find a way to win. And you know what? It doesn't really matter what I'm sure we're all secretly thinking, we could go all the way. Could we win the league? Is that bad? Am I being crazy? Well, it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the players think. And I betcha that likes of Romero and Maddison is on the QT saying to each other, we could do that this year. If we just keep taking this a game at a time, we could do something, yeah?
I just think 1 or 2 injuries would really derail this Tottenham Hotspur team. And I don't want to be negative. I think I just being realistic and not getting carried away with it yet. You know, I'm loving this football and I'm loving the way that we're playing at the moment.
I didn't say we're going to win the league. All I said was some of them players will be having conversations, which is what we want them to be having, rather than over the years in the noughties, especially when they'd be talking after heavy defeats in London derbies, talking about what nightclub they were going to. So, you know, at least now we're getting on even kill. But you never know. If we get through to January, Chris, we might plug those holes. You know, if Lo Celso stays, I've got every confidence in him as a backup number 10, by the way. You know.
Yeah.
Benzia's coming back, remember. But it's a fine balance. You don't want too many players, unhappy people stinking the place out.
Yeah.
You don't want too many in the squad, you know.
Jamie, let's come to you. Of course, Richarlison had a couple of chances in the first 10 minutes, as did Pedro Porro, that we've touched on already. Tottenham had another shot in the 10th minute, Heung-min Son this time over the bar. Shortly after that, the Spurs away end was singing "There's Only One Darren England." A bit of a joke there about last week. In the 16th minute, Mickey van der Ven had a shot over the bar. A minute later, Kulusevski had a shot. It was blocked, come out to Heung-min Son, held by the goalkeeper. 2 minutes later, Richarlison with another shot, this time over the bar. I just wanted to touch on Richarlison again, because at what point are you going to get frustrated as a Spurs fan that he's not putting some of these chances away? And for me, and I really want it to work at Spurs for him, and I feel like I've defended Richarlison so much. Surely he's got to be getting some of these chances on target at least, because the amount of times we have seen, particularly during pre-season and the game so far, and of course last season, you know, him missing, going wide, going over the bar. Surely he's got to be doing better.
He needs to put a Brazil shirt on underneath his Spurs shirt, because he seems to do it when he's in a Brazil shirt. But I'm already frustrated. I want it to work for him. It's tailor-made. Kane going. You know, we paid a lot of money for him. I think we have to play him through the middle. I think we have to play him as a number 9. I don't think he should be coming in off the side. I think he's good. His hold-up play's decent. He's obviously good in the air. We can feed balls into him. I think we've got to give him his opportunity, his full opportunity. I think that's for me. But I think, hand on heart, do I think it's going to work? No. Do I think he's going to end up going? Yes. I just don't think. I think that today was a real signal that I just don't think it's going to go for him in a Tottenham shirt. He's not going to be the player that we want him to be. We need him to be. You know, that first opportunity that goes in the back of the net. You know, if Deluxe, but there's something about that goal, to be fair, because Luton missed loads of chances in that same goal. So I don't know what was going on at that end, but no one could seem to score at that end.
Jamie, can I just add something quickly? Sorry, I've got my cousin and one of my best mates are huge Everton fans, and as you know, they adore Richarlison at Everton.
Yeah,
they both say that his best work for them was coming off the left, and
really?
I have to say, including this game, I know he missed those chances and it doesn't look good, and you know, goals are all and everything, but I think he makes better chances for himself and gets in better positions coming in off the left, and I do think that the pressure is off him slightly more. I honestly think one of those was just a really good save. And as I said, the kind of dry pitch didn't help. But yes, he should have scored more goals than he has. But I think if he could just like notch a couple, you know, 2 in 5 games or whatever, I think it can happen for him. I think we've got to be a bit more patient. That's all I'm thinking.
I think the problem with him coming off the left for Tottenham, I don't think he's enough of a wide player in the way Manor Solomon or somebody, you know. I think that's I don't think he'd be the first choice out left in a lot of games. That's the problem, because he wants a guy getting chalk on his boots all the time. Postecoglou, I think. You know?
I don't think that's what we need him to be. That's what I'm saying. I think Everton's a different prospect. I actually saw his debut at Everton. I was up there, he had a pre-season friendly against Valencia, and I was doing a job in Liverpool, and I went to the game, and he looked absolutely superb. and thinking about it, he was sort of coming in off the left. But I don't think that's what we need from him. That's what I mean. And so therefore, I think we need him to be a target man. We need him to hold up play. We need him to bring players like Sonny on. We need him to do that job for us.
I think the good news is, if he's not right, I think Postecoglou will sell him very quickly. I don't think, and I think Jar said earlier on, I think there would be takers as well, and we'd lose a bit. We'd probably lose 20 million on him, but I think we'd still get 40. And if Postecoglou doesn't think it's going to work, then I think he'll bomb him out and not just stick it for his sake.
He seems to be the sort of player as well. He'll end up going somewhere and scoring 30 odd goals. Like, he's one of those. I just think if it's not, he does look a bit sulky. I think he gets looked down. I thought he looked down today. I thought he looked a bit, down in the chops today. And he's the sort of guy that needs that, and he'll go off and he'll go to Madrid and he'll score 30 goals and win the Champions League. It's one of those. We do have a little bit of habit at Spurs over the years of turning top prospects into.
Yeah. I actually think he's one of those players that needs to be the main man. Like, I think at Everton, at Watford, he was the key guy. Oh my God, if we're going to do it, it's Richarlison. And I think he's coming to this situation where, Harry Kane last year, and this year, it's more of a team thing.
I'm surprised. That's why I'm surprised, because I thought with Kane going, I was gutted Kane was going. I'm not with Jar. I didn't want him to go. I know that it hung over us and all that, but I was gutted. I felt like it was a breakup. In fact, I actually said to my wife, I think it would have been easier if you'd have left me than Harry Kane going, and I stand by it. I could have got over it. I could have had some, but Harry Kane leaving, I've got a 7-year-old son who's kicking off downstairs. But to break the news to it was awful. But I did seek a little bit of solace in the fact I was like, we've got a replacement. We've got a top world-class striker in our ranks that we've already got. This is his opportunity. I had a sneaking feeling that he would go and be our man. He would be our talisman, and he just hasn't stepped up. And I don't know whether that's a mental block for him. I don't know what it is, but I think personally, if he was going to do it, he'd have done it by now.
Well, it might be the curse of Tottenham, because every time we bought a number 9 or a striker, it doesn't work out. So, you can go, I think Jar mentioned Postiga, you can go Soldado, you can go Vincent Janssen. Richarlison hasn't happened yet. The only striker that's worked out in the last decade or two is Harry Kane. So
Sergio Rebrov, you remember him?
Sergio Rebrov, yeah.
Aaron Ben.
I was there when Rebrov scored at Main Road. Do you remember the 1-0 away? I think that was about the only goal I can remember him scoring.
That tells you that I was there when Rebrov scored. That tells you. That's what that was.
I'd say the last big success genius was Berbatov, wasn't it? Really, I mean, obviously Robbie Keane and Defoe before him, but.
Well, what I had a soft spot for? Pavlyuchenko. He got a few goals.
Didn't run about as Harry Kane.
Exactly. Just go on and run about. Yeah.
Barnaby, one thing I wanted to talk about in the 23rd minute, Heung-min Son with a sliding tackle. You don't normally see Heung-min Son doing sliding tackles.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember it really well, actually. I think I made a note of it. And Bissouma did exactly the same thing in the last game as the last man covering against Liverpool. And it just shows exactly what we've been talking about, all working for each other. It's almost like they are getting as much joy out of a tackle as they are out of an assist and a goal. And you need that. And especially when you're underdogs going up against your Man City and Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool and big clubs who have got all the funds that we are not having, that we don't have or aren't using. So that's where, I know the discussion we had earlier about, could we? I mean, I agree. I don't think we will, but I think we'll definitely be in the run for the top 4. But I also think Danny Drinkwater and Robert Huth have Premier League winners' medals, and that is totally on the back of this kind of mad. Suddenly, something comes together that you didn't expect to come together, and there's kind of a first 11 that is a proper team, and then you've got Ogasaki coming in, or Ajoa coming in just when you need them or something, although they're not very good players. And I think we've got a better squad than they ever did. I think Man City are stronger than Spurs or Arsenal were back then, but strange things can happen. And I was on one of these podcasts back in 2018, 2019, towards the beginning of the season. We'd had not a great start. And I said, it wouldn't surprise me if we went really deep into the Champions League, but we don't do great in the league. And this season, it wouldn't surprise me if we were there or thereabouts at the end. But I realise it's easy for me to say that now because we're top of the league at this point. But there's just something brewing. That's all I'm going to say. There's just something brewing, and it wouldn't be a big surprise.
I agree. But however, the reality is as well, you think about the little bits of luck we've had. That Fernandes miss at home to United.
Yeah.
Obviously, last week, you know, the Liverpool game, we are enjoying a nice little run of luck, and I'm not knocking it because we've had our fair share of being on the other end of that. So if you look back on a few of those games early on, even in this season, you know, that changes results and that changes things. So I think that eventually will turn and we'll start getting a few decisions against us and all of that. And then we'll see what we would go. But, you know, it's a nice time to be a Spurs fan again. Someone just put a comment.
The Leicester at home to Leicester away to us when we played them at home in that when they won the league that year, and they won 1-0.
Yeah, the header, yeah.
Yeah, and you know they had luck on their side as well. I mean, this is it. What's better than having a good manager? Have a lucky one. Arsenal, you know, the lucky Arsenal of old. You know, so
I like the fact that Barnaby's getting carried away. I like that.
Yeah, well,
Barnaby.
Ange told me I was allowed to, so I'm gonna.
If you've got a pattern of 8 games, you know, you're top of the league right now. Don't get carried away, but it's equally mad if you take an attitude. We won't do it. That'd be daft, you know. The wheel's going to come off. It's bound to. That's also the other extreme position. You just keep taking it a game at a time. I think the players will be fancying the job, you know, and they'll be vibing, and that's what really matters, you know. And we've all been here. I can't remember us being, you know, looking this good, but there's been times we've been top going into certainly, you know, early on in October. There's been 3 or 4 times, I think, you know. It wasn't a team playing this kind of football looking good. So there is something going on, and only a couple of months now to the not even 3 months to the transfer window opening, which could be crucial for us to plug 1 or 2 of those other gaps.
Yeah, you know? we could get Ryan Nelson and Louis Saharin.
Oh, yeah. See, that'd be back to Levy. That was another, you know, that's another the debit side of Levy for me, you know, when he didn't back. We were 2 players away. It was so often we've been a cup just 2 or 3 players away from genuinely challenging. I know a lot of the kind of mediocre to good teams would say that, but we're the classic mediocre to good sort of team that's just been underfunded on the pitch, and also you just in those times that you really need it. Just when Pochettino really needed it, just when Redknapp really needed it, we were given a couple of guys, you know, that had been great players, but well by the sell-by date by that point, you know.
Yeah, hopefully no more club signings coming through the door. Hopefully Andrew's got the decision making overall. Jog, talk me through the disallowed Luton goal in the 40th minute, because there are a lot of Spurs fans in the away end looking very, very confused. Of course, the ball went in the net. We all looked to the linesman. The linesman didn't have a flag up. We all were confused whether it was going to be a goal or not. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it's very strange because I thought it was ballooning over the bar. There's always hit the bar. Oh my God, it's in the net. And so I was very concerned for a little while. But it was an obvious push on Romero, wasn't it? An absolute obvious, you know, he sort of jumped and he pushed him, and it was no way it was a goal, you know. The thing with so it was never a goal. So it didn't matter it went in the net. It was never a goal. The thing that worried me more was that cross to the far post along the deck, and the guy went with his right peg, not the left. Thank God he went with his right. You know, having said that, Vicario's positioning was perfect. Great body shape and everything, ready to make a wonder save. So who knows, even if he got it on target.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Really, he really got across his goal well. Yeah. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but really impressed me when we still had 11 men. It's talked a lot about how those inverted fullbacks work when we've got the ball and give us, you know, more people in midfield to overload the opposition and play those little intricate passes. I was incredibly impressed today in the first half with how it allowed us to win the ball back quickly once we lost the ball, because then there were 4 or 5 of them around the Luton players and they couldn't handle it. And in that first half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, we absolutely dominated using that. And that was super exciting to watch.
Yeah. I thought we were just at them. I thought the part was just absolutely hoovering everything up. The first, he was capitalising on any dwelling on the ball and all that. I thought, yeah, I totally agree. And then Bissouma is a naughty boy, but we'll let him off.
Well, that's exactly where I'm going to go, Jamie, with you, because Bissouma, of course, picked up a yellow card around 5 minutes before the half-time break. And then just before the half-time break, he picked up the second yellow card. Before I ask your opinion on it, Ange Postecoglou on Bissouma said Bissouma made a mistake. He's been brilliant for us all season. It's all about how you react to it, and his teammates made sure it didn't lose us the game. What did you make of the two incidents?
I mean, they're two unnecessary situations. He doesn't need to bring the guy down there. I think he's got better quality than that. I don't think, it wasn't a last-ditch situation. I think he's obviously just tried. He's young. I think he's been brilliant. And I live in Brighton, so I saw him a lot at Brighton. And when we signed him, I was really excited. And for 25 million as well, I thought it was a real steal. And then obviously didn't really live up to his billing. He wasn't given. Now he's been given the freedom. He's excellent. I think he's made mistakes. He's made two mistakes. The second one is embarrassing. I think if you're going to get sent off, you've got to make it worthwhile. You've got to commit. If you're bringing someone down, or if you're putting in a big tackle, or you're mistiming something, or whatever, but you can't get a second yellow card for that. I mean, there's no excuse for that. And I think we got away with it because we were playing Luton. If he's doing that against a bigger team with better quality, we'd be made to pay. We've dodged a bullet today for sure. But listen, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He's a top player and he's really integral to what we're doing, and we need him. You made the point earlier, Chris. It's going to be really interesting to see how we now cope without him. Again, I don't think this early in the season, this may be a good thing. So we know, how we can strategize with one of our key players missing. But yeah, he needs to get a bollocking for that, for sure. And he needs to learn quickly. He's picking up too many bookings. To be 8 games in and already on a suspension, awaiting one more booking for a suspension, that's, he needs to have more discipline than that. I mean, that being said, on the flip side, in this day and age, you can get booked for anything. So it's not difficult. And the way he plays, the way he, almost Dembele-esque, Moussa Dembele-esque in the way he holds players off, and he's so strong and he takes the ball on the half turn. He's going to be liable to picking up bookings, and I will forgive him that, but I won't. That is embarrassing. He needs to hang his head a little bit for that. But
is it one game for the 5 yellows and one game for the second yellow? Is it 2 game suspension?
He's got 1 game suspension for the red card, and he's still now on 4 yellows. So then, when he gets another yellow, he will then be suspended again.
Yeah,
I thought because he got 2 yellows today, so he already got 1, didn't he? Which means he was suspended.
No, because when you get 2 yellows, it supersedes the first one. So he's still on 4. So because he's got a red card, it's 1 game for the Fulham game. And then if he gets a yellow card in the next game, he will then be suspended for the game after, because he's still on 4.
It's a bit like when I used to play. Well, I had one manager, Scottish manager, and if you and I used to play non-league football, so we'd get a few quid and all that. If you got bookings, he didn't mind bookings, but if you got booked for dissent, then you had to spend your game's wages and put it behind the bar, and you got the beers in for everyone. He was like, I don't accept it. If you're going to put someone in the stands, then I'll accept that. That's fine. You're going to miss time and tackle, but dissent or diving is just. I mean, that's it.
Well, he said under the circumstances, it's what are you? You've already got the first yellow. Like you said, it wasn't like the guys threw on goal. There's sufficient cover, so that's a bit mad. But I could see that's an instinctive thing, so it's annoying. Yeah, but then going to dive, doing that when you're on a yellow, come on.
It's disappointing.
You're playing Luton. Stay on your feet. Keep plugging away. That's the professional thing to do. It's the behaviour of somebody more like a 19-year-old rookie than a guy that's got enough games under his belt to be successful.
But he'll learn from it, and that's all. He's a top player, and he's a top player, very important player for us. And so it's maybe good. It's this stage of the season as opposed to further down the line.
I just wonder what we do. But Bentancur is not going to be ready, so I guess you're going to have people like Maddison having to come back. They're going to have to find another way of playing it out from the back rather than
I think Højbjerg comes in. I think Højbjerg comes in and plugs the gap. He can't.
Against Fulham, Chris was there, weren't you, as well? That the Carabao Cup, him and Skip, they could not get on a half turn at all. Fulham were all over him, and he's just not that guy. Højbjerg, he hasn't got that in him.
No.
That's the concern.
It's at home though. It's at home, so I think Fulham won't be quite as front-footed there. I think they'll be a bit more wary of what we can do to them going forward. But yeah, it will be more difficult.
Yeah.
Barnaby, let's stay with you because at half-time, of course, it was 0-0. Richarlison went off. Højbjerg then came on. In the 49th minute, Tottenham had a chance. Kulusevski crossed to Pape Matar, who tried to backheel the ball in. And in the 52nd minute, of course, Tottenham scored their goal. James Maddison corner. Of course, he then had the ball again, got it back to Van der Ven. 1-0. First goal for Van der Ven in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. How good has Mickey Van der Ven been in a Spurs shirt since arriving from Wolfsburg?
Yeah, really excellent. I think everybody's in the summer kind of thought they wanted Edmund Tapsoba more. But again, like I said earlier, I think this is where I really back Postecoglou to know exactly which players he wants with which attributes and who to prioritise. Be interesting to see whether we go in for Tapsoba in January because, obviously he brought in the kid from Blackburn, as I think Jar or Jamie mentioned. But I get the feeling that that's more one for the future, and obviously similar to missing Bissouma next time. If we were to get an injury at centre half, then you are bringing in Eric Dyer, and I think since that Barcelona pre-season friendly where Dyer kind of made a couple of errors, I don't think Postecoglou really trusts him, and obviously he's in the last year of his contract as well. So yeah, really, really impressed with Mickey Van der Ven. Love the fact that he insists on wearing black boots for matches. He's like a throwback. I love that about him.
He looks like a throwback centre half as well. He does. Recovery pace is better than that, but he looks like an old school upright centre half. Really
impressed with him. I think he covers Romero really well, and like I said earlier, I think he's better on the ball than probably I expected him to be. And I think he's big, and he will score goals from set pieces actually, especially with Maddison's delivery. So yeah, let's keep him fit. Let's keep him on the pitch and keep those two playing together for sure.
Joe, let's come to you. I want to get your thoughts on Dejan Kulusevski's performance today at Luton.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, sometimes he's a great outball. So he's our modern-day Tony Gelvin. Although Tony Gelvin, who was Russian-speaking, by the way, played on the left. They're those wide players, a great outball. He was a very sensible guy, Gelvin. He was maybe one of the almost like an inverted winger. I think he was left-footed, but he would turn back in field. He would keep the ball. It was all about the build-up. And he's a great outball. Got a lovely left peg, when he comes in, those balls to the far post. But at times he comes across to me as a sort of bread and butter inverted winger. A kind of 6 out of 10 guy. In some of the home games when he gets down the flank and he's one-on-one, it just doesn't quite look to have enough of confidence or enough of a trick in him. He's not quite been as impressive as he was when that first spell that he had. He's not quite been the same since the injury and all that. But he obviously rates him. Apparently, my son reckoned he runs more than any other Premier League player. He said there was a stat saying that, which is impressive. Having said that, he doesn't, he doesn't seem to bust the gut to get back sometimes, but maybe that's just the instructions he gets. He doesn't come running back with that desperation that Son showed with a sliding tackle today, But, he's a good player. Happy to see him there. I do think once Johnson's fit, he won't be starting every game. I think Johnson would be taking that berth on because you need a bit. At times we could be having somebody a little bit more direct.
If I can just chip in, I like him. I like his work rate. I just think he's too predictable.
Yeah,
bit
bread and butter. Bit bread and butter at times. Just
constantly cuts inside. He constantly cuts inside, and I think when he first arrived, and no one knew anything about him. He was absolutely ripping people apart, and he was cutting inside. He's picking up some lovely goals. But I think if you're a defender playing against him, you know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to constantly try and cut back, And I think, and I think Johnson, I'm excited about Johnson. I went to the Forest home game last year and I thought he looked outstanding in a very, very poor Nottingham Forest team that didn't look like they had any goals in him. He was the only one. And he's got that turn. He's obviously got that pace and he's got that electricity where he will just try and take someone around the outside. And I think with Kulusevski, he's never going to try and take someone around the outside. He's always.
And look at that finish. Look at the finish for the disallowed goal against Sheffield United.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful finish.
Yeah,
and but it's nice. It means you're building a base where you've got a guy who can cling wide. That ball, when he manages to come inside and cross it to the far post as he did today for the foot, that's such an effective ball in. You know, we will get goals from that, so it is good. But yeah, if you're a defender facing up on him now, the one thing you don't do is let him onto his left. And if you get him to his right, he hasn't really got a fantastic ball in with his right. He doesn't seem to get to the line and then cut it back with real intent. He gets to the line and is a little bit fannying about, trying to pick a man out. But on the whole, it'd be great. The left side, I'm really looking forward to Gill coming back in. I think he could really be a hit. I think he was on the bench today, right, Brian Gill. I think he would have played today. He would have brought him on in that game if it wasn't for the red and the way he had to then, manage the game from then on in. I think he would have played. I think he could be a very important player for us like this season goes on, because he can beat a man. But he's also got the great eye for the pass and those triangles and all that, So he's a good, flexible player tactically. He's good. So we're in good shape. It's just such a drag with his injuries. I thought Perisic was a huge miss. The last couple of games. This the quality of his dead balls. The corners and all that. And by one other thing I like to say, I like to see Porro get on these free kicks. He could be our Walter Carlos, this geezer.
On Bentancur, I'm looking forward to Bentancur coming back. I think he's classy. He's got a lovely,
Well, he's the most elegant player I've seen at White Hart Lane since Hoddle.
Yeah.
Can I ask you all about Bentancur? When he comes back, if we get the Bentancur that was playing for us at his peak, who does he replace in this Tottenham Hotspur midfield?
He could play. He's a 6, an 8, and a 10. That geezer. Yeah. He's a 6, an 8, and a 10. He's that good, Bentancur.
But who does he replace in our team?
I think Sarr, automatically it would be Sarr. But I have to say, today, I thought Sarr's engine and his legs were absolutely vital. Yeah. So it won't be as simple as a lot of fans think, I think. But I agree with Jo in that he can fill in for any of those. And the way that Postecoglou takes some of our best players off, which no managers of ours have done for years, shows that he believes in the squad and he believes in the players who have got the most legs. Chris, I just have to say I'm going to have to go in a minute. Sorry about that, but it's been brilliant being on. I'm
literally on the last question, Barnaby, so I'll start with
Top
you.
Man.
Of course, the next game is Fulham at home on the 23rd of October. We're going to the international break now. We've only got 2 games now in October. We've only got 3 games in November, and then we've got a very busy December, 7 matches in the Premier League. Now we've got Fulham, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, and Aston Villa. Barnaby, how do you think we're going to get on in those 5 games, in particular the next game, Fulham at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, I think we're going to beat Fulham at home. I feel pretty confident about that. I know we're missing Bissouma, but I think we're going to find a way. I heard someone talk in a podcast this week about how good it would be if we were top of the league when Chelsea come to the lane and Postecoglou, and Pochettino. And I'm not going to boo Pochettino. I love Pochettino for what he did at Spurs. I think it's unfortunate he's gone to Chelsea, but I also don't think he was left with much choice. But I do think if we won 3 points against Chelsea and we're top of the league already and continued that way, it would be one of those. I mean, every game at the Spurs Stadium is magical at the moment and the atmosphere is amazing. But I think that could be as loud as we ever hear it. So I think we're going to carry on the run. I think Palace away will be difficult. I think if we got a draw at Palace away, I wouldn't be upset. We can win there. They've got injuries. Elise and I think Eze are injured at the moment and they're their kind of star men. But it will be a tough one. Hodgson will get them drilled. But yeah, Chelsea after that, if we can keep this unbeaten run going into there, I think we'll be top of the league or thereabouts. And let's turn them over to make it a really great day.
Barnaby, thanks so much for joining us. And tell everyone where they can find you and what you're up to at the moment.
Yep, so I've just started Spurred On again as a podcast. It's a video podcast, so go to me on YouTube at Barnaby Slater _ to watch that. It's daily, so I'm putting out Spurs content every day on there. And if you like audio podcasts, just wherever you get it, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, just type into the search bar the Spurred On podcast. Thanks a lot, guys. Looking forward to meeting a lot of you.
Thanks, Barnaby. Thank you so much. Look forward to having you on again very soon. Jar, let's come to you. Of course, Fulham next at home in the Premier League. International break now. Are you worried about more injuries during the international?
Yeah, I mean, I can't stand these breaks. The worst thing is it's just a dead weekend, you know. So, yeah, it's a total drag. So, and of course, you're worried about injuries, especially Maddison, the likes of Maddison. Yeah, you know. But let's fingers crossed we'll get through that. Fulham, yeah, I'm a bit worried about the Bissouma thing. He's such a vital player. The way he's been getting on the half turn for the first time this season, we don't have it. But I guess Postecoglou will be well ready. He'll be prepared. He'll have a game plan of some kind or another. In it, maybe Marcus Silva will be jumping ahead, trying to predict what that'll be. So it'll be a tough game. They'll fancy the job. It'll be a tough game. They won today 3-1. Their cells are going to be up. But in the position we are with the players we've got and the spirit we've got, you've got to fancy us to do something. And funny enough, I think it'd be a game Richarlison might come good in. It's big one of these home games. He'll suddenly get a brace of goals or something. So yeah, I think that'd be good. I'm dreading Crystal Palace at home because I'm playing in Southampton. It's a Friday night kickoff, isn't it?
It's away.
Gig. Yeah. So I can't. At the time we're on stage, the game's on. I hate that when it happens. You know, I have the phone on stage with the thing off, with the sound off, and keep my eye on it through the gig. But it's just horrible, you know. But you know, I think you got, you know, Chelsea. They won today. They beat Burnley. I've seen people saying how terrible they are. I thought they looked half decent in the games I've seen. They just couldn't score a goal, you know. And they're a young team, and I think he'll, you know, we know what Poch is all about. He'll get them playing well. And that's going to be a big game. But it's a game at a time now. So Fulham, we just have to find a way to beat Fulham. And, you know, then we're still rocking, you know.
Well, Fulham have beaten Sheffield United today 3-1. Other 3 p.m. Results. Manchester United beat Brentford 2-1. Everton beat Bournemouth 3-0. And Chelsea won away at Burnley 4-1. Jamie, let's come to you. Actually, Jar, let's get a score prediction from you. Spurs, Fulham.
I'll go 2-1 to Tottenham.
Excellent. Jamie, how are you feeling ahead of the...
This is Sonny the Pug, by the way.
Hello, Sonny.
Yeah.
he's been in all the time. Every time you mention Sonny, he gives a little look up. So, yeah, that's...
Sonny. What a great name.
And my mate Brett, I have to give my mate Brett a shout out. And my 2 best mates, Adrian and Brett. And Brett, he had his dog's called Kane. So we had Sonny and Kane. So
lovely. Yeah.
I chose the right striker.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, Chris, go on.
Yeah, your score prediction and your thoughts on the Fulham game in a couple of weeks' time.
I think the Bissouma thing's a thorn in the side. But I mean, I'm excited and interested to see how Big Ange deals with it and how we deal with it. I think we'll come out 2-0. I think we'll be quite comfortable. Chelsea's Chelsea. They're always a bit of a bogey side, and you never know quite what we're going to get. It's got extra spice, obviously, with the Poch thing. But I think the Villa game's the toughest for me out of all of those fixtures. I think they're a really good side, really attacking side. Emery's got them playing really, really well. And I think that's 2 front-footed teams that won't stop. And I think that's got a lot of goals and a lot of high drama written all over it, that game. That's a tough fixture, that Villa one.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no easy games in the Premier League, is there?
Well, no, we proved that today.
Jamie, of course, you were at the Liverpool game and you go to games quite regular.
Yeah.
Explain to everyone how the atmosphere was after that Liverpool game, because the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the moment, after matches, particularly under Ange, it's like a party atmosphere now, isn't it?
Right from the off. The United game as well. You know, it's just a different atmosphere as soon as you get to the ground, like outside the ground. We've kind of been rattling around in that big fancy stadium, I felt, the last few seasons. But this time, and I love the fact they bring the guy out with the trumpet and then making a thing of him, like standing there, and
I'm even enjoying the rave. Bruno Desire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I hate rave music, but I'm raving at the end. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But even walking down the steps, I'm in the north stand, and I'm in the upper stand, and walking down the steps after the game, that everyone was bouncing up and down on the stairs. Me and my little boy were there, and it's just brilliant. And right from the off, and we've created it's becoming a fortress, as it should be. The south stand's designed on based on the wall at Dortmund, and it's becoming that. Teams, it's a hard place to come to. The atmosphere, we didn't stop singing. And to be fair to Liverpool, I thought their fans were incredible as well. I thought they were giving it loads. And it just makes the whole thing, like you say, it's just a massive party, and it's so good to feel it that way, that we've got our Tottenham back.
Absolutely, well said.
Liverpool, by the way, I was terrified before that game because Liverpool were a great team with a great gaffer, and I can't believe the amount of people writing Liverpool off in terms of challenging for the title, because they don't look far off to me. It's so aggressive in the right way.
Yeah, I thought we defended so well against them. I thought we shut them up completely. The embarrassing thing that happened to me that day, Chris, was I thought I saw you, and so I shouted your name and you ignored me. But it turns out you're West Ham.
Yeah, I got your message saying you've just seen me. I was like, "This is not me. It's over the other side." It definitely wasn't me.
You were schmoozing. You were schmoozing in the VIP bit. I was by Mush lads.
We were hoping that Ricky Norwood, of course, channel regular and actor, was going to join us at the end of this stream, but unfortunately his meeting has been held up, and he's not going to join us. But we do wish him, of course, all the very best for Dancing on Ice 2023. So that's going to be out soon. But Ricky will obviously be back on the channel again very soon. Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and hopefully we can get you back on again very, very soon. What are you up to at the moment? And hopefully in the next couple of weeks during the international break, you and I are going to do a Q&A talking about your acting career. What are you up to at the moment?
Well, I'm not allowed to say, which is a bit annoying. And anyway, I'm not allowed to say. I'm under a lot of NDAs, but I've just finished filming something very exciting, which comes out next year. It's a TV thing. So, and life's been really, really busy, and I left Corrie last year and just sort of didn't stop working, which was lovely. And I'm in a film called Gran Turismo, which is out in the cinemas as we speak. And me and my wife have opened a cafe down here in Brighton called The Green Room.
Oh, wow.
Which we opened in June. So when I'm not swanning around on big TV sets, I'm asking people how many sugars they want in their tea. So, it keeps me grounded.
What's the dream job?
I've just done it. This job I've just done, I've been waiting for. I've been an actor. I left drama school 20 odd years ago, and I've been waiting 20 odd years for this job. It's the best, biggest and best job I've done. No disrespect to all the other jobs I've done. I've been very lucky. Peaky Blinders and things was, I've done some really, really good stuff. But this was different level. So I can't wait for it to come out. I can't wait to be able to talk about it. I'm so rubbish at keeping my mouth shut, and social media is an absolute minefield. So,
when will that be? When can you talk about it?
Well, as soon as they announce it, there's certain cast members they've announced, and then I'm sort of on the list of announcements. So as soon as they announce it, I'll be putting it all over social media. But in the meantime, I've already had my knuckles wrapped a couple of times, accidentally putting a couple of pictures up, which I had to very rapidly take down. So, I've got to sort of keep it zipped. But, you'll be the first to know. I'll come back on here and we'll talk about it. But it'd be lovely to come and have a chat with you about my career, my love for Spurs, which runs very deep. And I've now, unfortunately, infected my son with the same illness. So, the same virus.
Well, hopefully, Jamie, the trophies are coming very soon. Hopefully, the success is coming again. Thank you so much for coming on. And Jar, thanks for coming on again. And hopefully we can do a Q&A, just you and I on this channel very, very soon as well. What are you up to at the moment? Are you touring again?
Yeah, we've got rehearsal starting soon. So I hate rehearsing. But then, we're touring. We start in Exeter 25th of October. And, so we're in London on the 4th of November at the Forge in Camden. And there's a new album out, A Brief History Now, Jo Wobble. So, you know, there's a few things going on.
Brilliant. Well, lovely to have you back, and look forward to having you on again very soon. Thanks to Barnaby, thanks to Jamie, thanks to Jai, and thanks to everybody who has tuned in on this stream and listening to this on an audio platform. Enjoy the international break. I will be doing some content every single day, of course, and enjoy the international break, and I'll see you again soon. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Thanks,
Come on,
fellas.
Spurs.